The narrative begins with a gloomy young man confessing that he got kicked out of the house by his mom. The girl listens patiently, casually puffing on a cigarette as he mentions being jobless at the age of 30. He is clearly distressed. He doesn't know what to do next or where to turn. Amid the following silence, his friend suddenly addresses him as Kyushike and suggests a surprising solution. They should get married. Kyushike's eyes widen in shock, completely thrown off by the proposal. But his friend remains calm, quickly explaining that the plan is to get married, then divorce soon after. Still confused, he demands to know the reasoning behind such an odd idea. His friend explains calmly that she comes from a wealthy, traditional family, and now that she's turned 30, her parents are pressuring her to settle down. If they get married, she'll satisfy their expectations, and then take her revenge by divorcing him soon after. Kyushike still can't wrap his head around why, out of all people, she would ask him. He looks at her skeptically. He tells her this isn't a good plan. Marriage, he insists, should be with someone you consider a soulmate, and no one can predict when that person might appear. Rue scoffs at the idea, brushing it off as sentimental nonsense. But for Kyushike, it's a belief he's held onto tightly, so much so that he's never been in a serious relationship until now. Rue, however, repeats her point that she doesn't care about love. She just needs the title of being married, and in her eyes, this is the perfect deal for both of them. After sitting with the thought for a while, Kyushike starts to see that maybe it's not as crazy as it sounds. Rue even offers a practical solution to his homelessness, suggesting he can stay with her while looking for a job. She proposes they stay married for just 100 days. Kyushike, still processing it all, cracks a small joke to lighten the moment. Kyushike takes a moment to think seriously about the proposal. Sensing his hesitation, Rue brings it up again, and this time he agrees. It's revealed that Rue and Kyushike have known each other since high school, maintaining their friendship even after graduating from university. He had always seen her strictly as a friend until now, when he suddenly found himself married to her. After the ceremony, Kyushike suggests they take a few wedding pictures, but Rui rushes through the process, eager to get things done. As Kyushike flips through the photos, still in disbelief, Rue hands him the marriage application form, asking him to fill it out so their union can be officially recognized and their surnames matched. At the same time, she casually hands him divorce papers, instructing him to complete them as well, so all the paperwork is ready in advance. Kyushike, still overwhelmed, asks Rue if he can stay at her place temporarily until he finds a full-time job and can move out. Rue reassures him not to worry about it. The day drags on, and Rue eventually invites him to join her for dinner. The invitation throws Kyushike off. He's been so caught up with the awkwardness of planning a divorce that he momentarily forgot they're technically a married couple now. Watching Rue prepare dinner only makes him more anxious as he wonders what she's cooking. But when she finally serves the meal, it turns out to be supplements. He protests, insisting that pills aren't a real dinner, but Rue begins munching on them, unbothered. When Kyushike offers to go out and buy food from the convenience store, Rue quickly dismisses the idea, finishes her own meal, and gets up to head to bed. Before going, she tells him to sleep on the sofa. The next morning, soft daylight filters in through the windows as Rue gently tries to wake Kyushike. Once he's up, she serves him supplements for breakfast, much to his disappointment, but he eats them anyway without complaint. A little later, Rue gets ready to leave the house. Kyushike stops her, asking if she needs help with anything at home, but she declines, explaining that she's already bought groceries and that their AI robot, Tamago, handles all the cleaning. Kyushike smiles and wishes her a good day as she walks out the door. When Rue returns home, he greets her at the entrance. She hands him money for the laundry, and just as he's about to shower, she reminds him to turn on the bathroom vent. All of this leaves Kyushike surprised. It doesn't feel like they're just temporary partners planning a divorce. Watching the robot diligently clean the house, Kyushike begins to feel like a burden, questioning his place here. Glancing at the marriage application still sitting on the table, he wonders if Rue might be reconsidering the entire arrangement. The next morning, Kyushike wakes up early to prepare a bento for himself. He has a job interview scheduled and decides to squeeze in a few chores before heading out. Wanting to wake Rui, he opens her bedroom door and softly calls her name. When there's no response, he hesitates, unsure whether he should go in, but finally builds up the courage to step inside. To his shock, he sees Rui lying upside down on the bed, unmoving. Panicked, Kyushike rushes to her side, shaking her gently until she stirs awake. Concerned, he checks her temperature and realizes she's burning up with a fever. Kyushike gently tells Rui to rest, assuring her that he'll take care of the food. Rui protests, saying she can't sleep on an empty stomach, but he reminds her that he already made breakfast and insists she let him look after her this time. Though confused by his concern, Rui nods in agreement. He hands her a towel to help reduce the fever and offers her some water before checking her temperature. It's 38.9 degrees Celsius. Once again, Kyushike urges her to relax and reassures her that he's got everything covered. Sitting by her side, he mentions the bento he prepared earlier and offers to rearrange the ingredients to suit her tastes. Rui agrees without hesitation, and with a smile, Kyushike leaves the room, reminding her once more to rest. As he walks away, Rui stares blankly after him, wondering how she even got sick in the first place, despite dedicating so much time to work with her father. Still, she can't shake the strange feeling of sharing her living space with someone else. A while later, he returns and gently wakes her up, proudly announcing that he made her favorite tomato porridge. He asks if she feels up to eating, and Rui, feeling starved, agrees. To her surprise, the food tastes incredible. She compliments the meal, and Kyushike modestly admits he's become pretty good at housework. Once again, he offers to help more around the house, pointing out that she's been handling everything alone, but if it's too much trouble for her, she's free to turn him down. He adds that he's usually alone at home, so helping out would actually feel fulfilling. Breaking the silence, Rui finally admits that she finds his presence comforting. She agrees to let him help out, making Kyushike blush. He then cheerfully mentions he also made miso soup, which astonishes her. With a warm smile, he tells her to rest a bit too while she finishes her meal. Before drifting off to sleep, Rui praises the porridge once more. While she sleeps, Kyushike gets busy with the chores. He loses track of time, and when he realizes it, a slight panic kicks in. He quickly finishes everything and gently reminds Rui to keep resting as he heads out for work. Rui watches him leave, a soft smile forming on her lips. The next morning, Rui's fever has broken and she's feeling much better. Over breakfast, she and Kyushike share a quiet, pleasant conversation to start the day. Kyushike steps into the room just as Rui finishes her shower. She soon settles at the dining table and thanks him sincerely for taking care of her while she was unwell. As she reaches for a match to light the cigarette, Kyushike swiftly snatches it from her hand, reminding her that she's just recovered from a fever. Then, almost hesitantly, he brings up the marriage application and asks why it still hasn't been submitted. Rui explains that she held off so he could back out any time if he changed his mind. She looks at him and asks if he really wants to live with her. Kyushike replies that since he's the one benefiting the most from this arrangement, he should be the one asking her that question. Rui smiles and admits that living with him hasn't been as difficult as she expected. When she inquires about his job interview, Kyushike confesses that he was late and it didn't go as planned. Rui tries to lighten the mood, but a part of Kyushike still worries that he's just becoming a burden to her. As Rui prepares to eat breakfast, Kyushike watches her and seeing her eat lifts his spirits. He becomes determined to prove he can be more useful than Tamago, their AI-clinging robot. Rui quickly reminds him that Tamago has been incredibly helpful and also adorably round, so he shouldn't mess with it. With a renewed sense of optimism, the two agree to finally submit the marriage application. As they take this step, Kyushike can't help but feel that these 100 days will be unlike anything they have experienced during their years of friendship. Rui, on the other hand, is focused on finishing her breakfast. After breakfast, they head out to submit the application. Though they both know their marriage has an expiration date, for now, they are a couple, even if the idea still feels a little surreal. The next day, during her lunch break, Rui opens her lunchbox and is pleasantly surprised by the beautiful meal Kyushike has prepared. She notices that his skill in decorating the food is improving each item arranged with care and creativity. Just as she's about to take her first bite, Hayakawa Kurumi calls out to Rui's senpai. She enthusiastically congratulates Rui for successfully signing a contract with one of their most difficult clients, then teases her by praising her cool demeanor and asking if she's up for some friendly competition. Her eyes soon wander to Rui's lunch and curious, she begins to ramble about the sudden change in her food. Rui calmly explains that the meal was made by her husband as much of a surprise to her as it is to Kurumi. She freezes, clearly in disbelief. To hush her disbelief, Rui firmly points to the lunch and tells her to take another look. This meal alone should be enough proof that she's married. But Kurumi isn't convinced and quickly notes that Rui isn't even wearing a wedding ring. Rui glances down at her hand, suddenly quiet. as Kurumi playfully accuses her of secretly perfecting her cooking skills just to avoid the embarrassment of a rushed divorce. Rui remains silent, her gaze fixed on her bare fingers, realizing she had overlooked something quite important. After returning home, Rui brings up the need to buy a wedding ring. Kyushike looks puzzled, prompting Rui to explain that if they want others to believe their marriage is real, wearing rings is essential. Kyushike hesitates, pointing out that he doesn't have the money for something like that. Rui suggests they just grab a pair from a general store, but Kyushike protests. Wedding rings are supposed to be meaningful, engraved with their names, something special. He insists that she wait until he can save up. But Rui quickly brings him back to reality, reminding him this is a short-term arrangement, just 100 days, and spending money on expensive rings would be a waste, especially when he should be saving to find a place of his own. Eventually, he gives in and agrees to check out the general store with her. At the store, Rui casually picks the first ring she tries on, but Kyushike suggests they at least choose something a bit nicer. He begins browsing, looking for rings that are pretty yet affordable. Rui insists a simple one will do, but Kyushike wants to find something that's cuter. He suggests a flower and a heart-shaped rings, but she points his lack of taste. She declines his choices and mentions that simple one is fine as it'll good on him as well. Touched by Rui's willingness to make this fake marriage work convincingly, he offers to pay for the rings. Rui agrees and walks off toward the cosmetics section, leaving Kyushike standing there, quietly watching her as she goes. As he waits, he notices another couple joyfully picking out rings together. Watching them, he quietly admits to himself that he wishes he could give a beautiful ring to his own partner, but quickly tries to accept the reality as long as Rui is content with what they have. Then, suddenly remembering, he realizes he needs to find Rui. Meanwhile, she's still in the cosmetics section, browsing various supplements, though she quickly dismisses most of them. In her mind, buying rings from a general store was the most practical, cost-effective choice. While glancing at Kyushike, she notices a familiar habit: he's nervously tugging at his clothes again, something he always does when something is weighing on his mind. Recognizing the sign, she says nothing for the moment. Kyushike then suggests they head home if she's done with her shopping, and she nods in agreement. But before they leave, Rui stops him and gently calls out his habit, asking him directly what's wrong. She tells him plainly that she's grown tired of watching him put everyone else first while ignoring his own feelings. She asks him to share everything with her as she is his wife. Kyushike remains silent for a moment, then finally looks at her and simply asks him to follow him. Without hesitation, she agrees. They arrive on a bridge, and he tells her about his dream of a romantic proposal at this point. Though he agrees he cannot give her a decent ring, he explains that exchanging rings should be a romantic memory, something genuine with a story worth telling. After all, Rui might one day need to share how she was proposed to, and it's better to have a heartfelt truth than a fabricated tale. Rui nods in agreement and asks how she can contribute. With a smile, Kyushike sets the scene. They are standing beneath a breathtaking sky blanketed with stars. Then he drops to one knee and formally proposes. Rui, maintaining her usual composure, replies with a cold yes, reminding him that they're already married. Still, they move forward and exchange rings. Kyushike takes his time, cherishing the moment as deeply as he can. Once finished, he asks Rui to return the favor. She glances down at her ring before slipping it onto his finger. Unable to hold back, Kyushike ponders how beautiful she looks. Rui silently proceeds with her part of the exchange, though the ring fits a bit snugly on his finger. Seeing Kyushike brimming with happiness, she curiously asks why he's so invested in making the moment romantic. He opens up, explaining that his grandmother often told him stories about her life, with his grandfather tales filled with warmth and affection. Rui, sensing a touch of sadness, gently asks about his grandmother's health. Kyushike reassures her that he's mentally prepared for whatever lies ahead, and shares that he's recently landed a promising part-time job. Now he's holding on to hope for a full-time opportunity. It finally dawns on Rui just how much this moment meant to Kyushike, and a wave of embarrassment washes over her for not giving it her best. Sensing her discomfort, Kyushike gently comforts her and expresses his gratitude for making his wish come true. Curious now, Rui asks what other romantic things couples usually do. Kyushike recalls that many couples hold hands, and before he can finish, Rui quickly agrees to try it. Kyushike, slightly flustered, says it's not necessary, but Rui insists, saying it's her turn to make him happy. As they walk side by side, their hands intertwined, Kyushike can't stop blushing. It's unfamiliar but sweet, and he feels a warm flutter in his chest, a tingle of something new and sincere. The next day at lunch, Rui opens her bento box and finds another beautifully arranged meal, each detail showing Kyushike's growing affection and care. Just then, Kurumi arrives to discuss work matters, but her eyes instantly catch the glint of Rui's ring. Emotionally overwhelmed, Kurumi vows to discover who this mystery husband is. She begins asking about the nature of their relationship, clearly skeptical that Rui is truly married. Her curiosity leads to more questions, but before Rui can answer, her phone rings. It's her mother. She excuses herself to take the call, only to receive news that leaves her visibly unsettled. When she returns home, Kyushike greets her warmly, but she doesn't waste a moment. She informs him with urgency that her parents are coming to visit. It's time, she says, to properly start their act as a married couple. The next day, after Kyushike finishes work, he checks the time and realizes it's already late. He hurries home, knowing he still needs to make dinner for Rui. When he walks through the door, Rui greets him warmly and asks with a smile if he'd like dinner first or a bath. Surprised by her sudden cheerful mood, Kyushike asks what's going on. Rui reminds him, once again, that they need to practice being a loving couple. Kyushike thinks she's joking, but Rui clenches her fist and seriously tells him that her parents are coming over. Understanding the situation now, Kyushike hesitates and says he can't pretend to be in love when they're not. But Rui grabs his hand and pulls him into her bedroom. She sits him on the bed and hands him her tablet, explaining that he doesn't have to worry because she's already done her research. She made a list of cute things they can do together to make her parents believe they're truly in love. Rui shows him the list and asks if he agrees, but Kyushike says she's not his boss. When Kyushike sees the word kiss on the list, he panics and tells her he can't fake something like that. He asks if there's anything easier he can do. Curious, he asks where she got this list from, and with a blank look, Rui says it's all based on shoujo manga. They decide to start with the first thing on the list, a lap pillow. Rui sits down and tells Kyushike to rest his head on her lap, saying it's the simplest one. But seeing how uncomfortable he looks, she changes her mind and tells him to just lie next to her instead. Lying on her arm, Rui tells him that if he's too nervous, she'll go first. But Kyushike starts freaking out again and tells her to get off him, saying this is way too close. He quickly pushes her aside, so Rui thinks of a new idea. She grabs a pillow and puts it between them, saying yes to his concern and adding that even though nothing will happen between them, her parents might check in on them, so they have to look like a real couple. Kyushike wonders what Rui meant by saying yes, so she explains that it means she's open to doing things that will make their act believable. He thinks she's taking things too far and lets out a sigh while covering his face with his hands. Seeing this, Rui grabs another pillow and says no instead, hoping it will make him feel more comfortable. Then Rui looks at him and says if the pillow idea is too much, wouldn't it be easier if they just tried doing it once? Kyushike quickly tells her he doesn't understand why her parents have such high expectations. He also points out that he can't even kiss her, so he can't go beyond that. She gets a little annoyed and leans closer to him. She tells him to stop saying he can't all the time. Kyushike asks her why she isn't feeling awkward like he is. Rui responds that the reason he can't do anything is because he keeps saying he can't, he should try. Maybe he'll surprise himself. Kyushike suddenly starts crying out of frustration. Rui tries to calm him down, but he explains that while he knows he can rely on her, he feels like he's failing when it comes to doing something for her in return. He feels awful, thinking all he ever does is cause trouble for Rui. But Rui stays gentle and asks him if he truly can't do anything like this, then why did they hold hands? She tells him that in that moment, she could feel his feelings for her. Hearing this surprises Kyushike. It's the first time someone has noticed his efforts. He remembers how openly Rui accepted his hand back then. Now wanting to show her how he feels, Kyushike decides to take a step forward. Even though he doesn't know how to say it out loud, he goes to Rui and holds her hand gently. Then he asks if she'd like to cook together. They both put on their aprons. Cooking wasn't on Rui's original list of romantic things, but it's still a good place to start, and Kyushike believes it's a step in the right direction. Rui is unsure, but she agrees to give it a try. Kyushike begins teaching her how to make curry, but Rui suggests they could just use the microwave and be done in 3 minutes. Kyushike disagrees and asks her to peel the potatoes with a knife. Rui struggles, so Kyushike decides to peel them himself and hands the peeled ones to her, asking her to cut them instead. Rui strikes the potato in one swift motion, but Kyushike quickly tells her to use both hands because it's dangerous. Then he gently explains how to chop the potatoes properly while guiding her hands. Rui notices how close Kyosuke is and realizes that despite what he said earlier, he is able to approach her. Curious, she asks him to keep going. She asks once more for his help in cutting the potatoes, and this time she genuinely appreciates the effort he's putting in. But when she points this out, Kyosuke gets flustered and quickly decides to peel the rest of the potatoes himself. While he focuses on peeling, Rui quietly observes how naturally he's acting. She thinks to herself that he actually looks really cool, and she says it out loud. This makes Kyosuke blush and look confused. He's not sure if Rui really meant it, or if she's just playing along with their training. Feeling nervous, he starts peeling the potatoes more quickly than before. After they finish preparing the vegetables, Rui notices that Kyosuke is still blushing, so she gently tells him to relax and focus on the cooking. They move on to frying the meat, and Rui happily says that cooking together is fun. Kyosuke can hardly believe she said that, but he reminds her to pay attention to the meat as they add in the vegetables. Once that's done, he tells her to let it simmer. Then, in a serious tone, Kyosuke apologizes for not being able to act like a proper couple. He tells Rui that all he really wants is to make her happy, and when he cooks, she's always on his mind. He explains that cooking is his way of showing love, something he feels confident about. Rui agrees that it's not a bad idea, and this surprises Kyosuke. She then adds that she didn't want to make him cry again, so she's okay with doing things this way. Both of them smile and agree that cooking together was a good decision. As Kyosuke brings out the cutlery, Rui asks if this is what being lovey-dovey is supposed to feel like. Kyosuke slides back a little, clearly nervous because of how close they are standing. Rui gently tells him not to cry. She's happy to keep things the way they've been. Once they sit at the dining table, Rui thanks him for the meal. Kyosuke feels truly happy because this time, the curry feels special. They made it together. But Rui doesn't look very excited. When he asks her how it tastes, she coldly replies that it's good. Kyosuke, however, can't stop eating it and says he loves it. Rui tells him that honest answers can sting a little, and after putting down her cutlery, she thinks to herself that she's just being who she is. She admits that the idea of acting all lovey-dovey was kind of silly. So if her parents start to question them, they'll just tell them this is how they are. But before ending, she reminds Kyosuke not to be too self-conscious about it. The next night, as Kyosuke serves dinner to Rui, he mentions that her parents are coming tomorrow, but she responds that they'd already agreed to just be themselves. But he seems unsure, wondering if he can really act naturally in front of her parents. When Rui notices that Kyosuke isn't eating, she finds out there was only enough food left for one person. Still, she offers to share her meal with him. She then mentions that the food actually tastes even better than it did the day before. Without warning, she feeds Kyosuke from her bowl. As he takes a bite, she giggles, revealing that feeding him was one of the things on her list. She teases him, saying he's pretty good at being lovey-dovey as long as he doesn't realize it. Kyosuke turns red with embarrassment, but then gets a little annoyed, realizing that while he thought they had dropped the list, Rui was secretly still working through it. She just smiles as Kyosuke assures her that from now on, they'll stay on the same page. Their talk is suddenly cut short when Rui's phone rings. It's her mom. He flinches, worried that a call this late might mean her parents are coming early, and he's not at all prepared. But after Rui ends the call, she calmly tells him that her parents aren't coming after all. Her dad got busy with work. Both of them let out a breath of relief. Kyosuke is caught off guard when she quietly stands up and tells him to finish the rest of the food. Though he's feeling better, Rui seems disappointed. Without another word, she steps out onto the balcony and lights a cigarette. Kyosuke follows her, asking what's bothering her. The next morning, Rui walks out of her room dressed for the day. He greets her with a freshly made breakfast, which she eats without saying anything. She finishes it quickly, then heads out for work. Just as he tries to wish her a good day, she shuts the door behind her. He stands there, worried. Even though Rui says she doesn't care about her parents, her sadness over them not showing up says something else. Kyosuke begins to overthink things again, but this time he decides it's better to ask Rui directly. He spends the whole day patiently waiting for the right moment. As the sky grows darker and it begins to rain, he stands by the window and wonders if Rui has an umbrella with her. Back at the office, Kurumi assumes Rui's senpai had a fight with her husband and tries to cheer her up. But instead of responding, Rui quietly walks out into the rain. Kurumi hurries after her, offering an umbrella. Meanwhile, Kyosuke watches Rui walking home completely drenched, holding an umbrella in her hand. He gently shows his concern, urging her to stay dry or she'll catch a cold. Kurumi, standing nearby, interrupts their moment, prompting Kyushike to assume she's Rui's mother. She quickly denies it, and though he laughs at the mix-up, Harumi starts to introduce herself. Before she can, Rui finally speaks up, introducing Kyushike as her husband. Since it's still raining, he politely excuses himself and leaves with Rui. Harumi smiles as she watches them walk away together. Noticing how down she looks, Kyushike starts a light conversation and hands her another umbrella in case she doesn't want to share, but she says she doesn't mind. He points out how unusual it is for her to say something like that. She quietly apologizes for how she's been acting. She admits that something's bothering her, though she isn't exactly sure what it is. He guesses it might be about her parents canceling their visit at the last minute. Rui admits he's probably right. She says she knows she should feel relieved, but instead she just feels off. Her mother has hurt her in many ways, and even though she wants to move on, she can't bring herself to forgive. Rui shares that although people might think she comes from a good family, the truth is very different. Her parents once tried to get a divorce but couldn't. According to her mother, a husband is supposed to provide, and the wife must stay home. She pressured Rui into marriage even after she moved out. As she rubs her cheek with a towel, she confesses she's not used to living this kind of life. Hearing all this, Kyushike quietly wraps his arms around her. Rui, surprised, asks why he hugged her. As soon as he pulls away, he blushes and stammers through an explanation. He didn't know what to say or how to comfort her, especially with her standing there soaking wet. Rui stares at him, slightly confused. She wraps her arms around Kyushike and softly expresses how warm it feels. Both of them quietly share what this new closeness means to them. For Rui, it's calming while he stands there, blushing furiously. Then Rui asks him if she should sleep next to him tonight, leaving him completely frozen. They soon reach their apartment. As bedtime comes, she tells Kyushike to hurry up and come into the room. He finds the whole situation too embarrassing but walks in anyway, apologizing and saying this wasn't on their list. Rui, clearly annoyed, tells him to just get in. He lies down at the very edge of the bed with his back turned to her, staring at the wall. Rui tries to shift his position, but when she can't, she sighs and sits quietly at the other corner. He becomes worried that he's upset her, so he sits up. Rui then explains that all she really wanted was to cuddle with him, and shows him a manga page with the exact position she had in mind. When Kyushike doesn't reply, she starts to push him into it. She jumps on him playfully, and once they're in the cuddling position, Kyushike finally relaxes. It hits him what Rui wants isn't anything else but to feel comforted and spoiled. As they lie there, Rui opens up. She shares how her parents have often missed important moments in her life because of her dad's job. It's made her question her own worth. Kyushike gently runs his fingers through her hair and tells her that what she's feeling is loneliness, and it's okay not to be okay. She doesn't have to go through it alone. Rui holds Kyushike's hand tightly as he teases her a little, saying she gets angry fast and has trained herself to act like a robot that downloaded emotions without really understanding them. That's when Rui truly begins to realize what loneliness is. Kyushike continues, saying that even though she might like being alone sometimes, it's perfectly normal to need someone. Her feelings are real. As Rui slowly drifts off to sleep, he gently comforts her. He can't help but wonder how this is supposed to be just acting. Later that night, Rui kicks Kyushike off the bed in her sleep. She's a restless sleeper. He wakes up holding his head, and when he sees Rui sleeping peacefully, he smiles, leans in to look at her for a moment, then quietly leaves the room to make breakfast. The next morning, Rui joins him at the table. Kyushike greets her with a warm breakfast. She casually mentions that she wants to buy an electric blanket to stay warm. This makes Kyushike pause. He suddenly thinks maybe she only cuddled with him for warmth, not feelings. While they eat, Kyushike tells her he'll be home late and dinner will be delayed. As he gets ready to leave, he takes a moment and asks her honestly if she really wants him to stay in the apartment. Rui answers coldly, saying it's possible her parents might still visit. He nods in agreement, trying not to show too much emotion. Looking at Rui makes Kyushike blush, and he quickly heads out for work. She quietly closes the door behind him. She takes out a cigarette. It's been a while since she was truly alone at home. On the balcony, she lights it and thinks to herself that she's used to being alone. Meanwhile, in the elevator, Kyushike can't stop thinking about Rui, but his thoughts are cut short when the elevator stops at the floor leading to Kamawata-san's apartment. He rings the doorbell, and Kamawata opens the door, apologizing for his casual look before inviting him in. Kyushike is stunned by how clean and sparkly his apartment is. He compliments him, and he thanks him, especially for his cooking skills. He shows him his brand new business cards, and he is surprised